What's up, Wicked Bros? This is Caleb. Checking in the channel here. And, by the way, this is no way in shape or form sponsored by Mystery Tackle Box or anything. But I got a Mystery Tackle Box. I got it at Walmart. You can find those in any store, really. You can just go on shopcarls.com and get them. And I'm just going to do a little review on it today and tell you guys what we got and what it's used for. This is a panfish box, so anything like trout, bluegill, and there's some baits in here that can be used for multiple species. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. I got this right here. This is by Dynamic Lures. It is a soft swim jig. We got a, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but that right there, it's a spinner, really small profile spinner. Then we got a big spinner here. It's a little heavier, it's got some bigger hooks too, bigger blade. Got Owl's Water Witch, which, that's a pretty cool name if you ask me. And last but not least, we got the little Rebel Cricut here, Cricut Hopper. Try to get that to focus there. Yeah. So, basically, as I said in the intro, this is for panfish, you know, bluegill, trout, etc., etc. Throw that over there. I'll start off with the sneak attack here. Alright, so this is obviously it's a swim jig, soft swim jig, you know, it's got the head there, and then it's got an extra jig with it, and some paddle tail small profile swim baits, excuse me. And this mimics bait fish. It's good for bass primarily, I guess you could say. You know, it mimics a really small bait fish. You can bounce this, you can swim it, just, you know, slow retrieve, or you can do it fast. It really depends on either your gear ratio on your reel or however you want to fish it that day. And you can, like I said, you can bounce it. It's got, you know, open it. This is just the head. It's got a little flat surface there. Right there, so you can, you know, you can just hop it, bounce it, whatever you want to do, and you can also just straight retrieve it. It doesn't matter. It honestly depends on how active the fish are, and it's a way to get a small profile bait, like a bait fish, down to a certain depth that you want. Plus, you can control the depth. It honestly depends. You can just, if you're fishing shallow, you can just swim it, or you can hop it off the bottom. Or you can throw it deep so you can get some more depth into it. If the fish are deeper in the water column, like even if you want to just cast it, let it sink clear down to the bottom in a deep area, and then you can get the bass if they're real down low. Yeah, down low. Yeah. And you can fish off the bottom there, kind of fish it like a jig almost, just like a regular, like you would if you were using a football jig or something like that. You can slow roll it on the ground. You can let it just drag on the bottom. But yeah, so that's that. And here's a little paddle tail here. Almost like a pearl type color, like a pearl shad, I guess you could say. As Kevin Van Dam calls it, the caffeine shad. So that's that. Then next, well, we'll do Owl's Water Witch, which is a killer for trout, walleye. It's almost like a jigging spoon. You know, you can jig it, you can slow retrieve it, and it'll flutter in the water and do all sorts of crazy action, stuff like that. It honestly depends on what you're fishing it, what you're using it for to fish, what kind of species, if you're targeting different species, or if you're just out there on the pond and you just want to throw it out there to catch whatever will bite it, honestly. I guess it's been catching freshwater fish for over 67 years. It's got a really I'd assume it's probably a really wide wobble. You can troll it or retrieve it, or you can even just drop it if you want to use it for ice fishing. You can just drop it down into the hole and just use your rod tip and just go like that and jig it, and it'll flutter all over the place and everything. It attracts trout, salmon, walleye, bass, crappie, and other panfish. So honestly, it's a utility lure. I mean, you can use it for whatever your heart desires, whatever you're fishing, doesn't matter. Then I'll do these together. These are spinners, obviously. This one is a 3 inches in length, and it is 1/4 ounce. And it can go anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. These spinners right here, as we call them rooster tails, they have a bunch of different names. Practically anything, really. I mean, a lot of different fish will bite a spinner. It's one of the most classic, most versatile baits, honestly. This right here has got a little, I guess you could call that like a rainbow trout pattern, I guess, or whatever, and mostly used for trout or bluegill, crappie, it doesn't matter. This also can catch pike, alright? And say you're using this for pike, you know, and it's a small profile, so sometimes with, you know, how big of a mouth a pike can have, they can miss that hook if you don't set it right or whatever because of how small they are. So then if that's not working for you, and it's also not going to go very deep, I think this is a tenth, yeah, it's a 1/10 of an ounce, so obviously you're going to use like an ultralight rod or something like that, 'cause you're mostly using this one for trout. Doesn't have a depth or anything, but regardless, it's definitely a very effective bait. And then this right here, it's a 1/4 of an ounce, so it's a lot heavier. So if you want to use it for pike, or you just want to like throw it deeper, like say the pike are down low because it's real hot outside, like if you're using for summer pike instead of springtime, as in springtime they'll come up in the water because they're going around shallow for spawning, and also hunting for spawning bass as well, and also feeding on bluegill. So you can use this if they're doing, you know, if they're real shallow, and then if you're not getting real good hookup ratios on this, then you can just switch it up, because this one right here has bigger, wider hooks, so you can, you know, get some better hookup ratios. It's also longer, so it's a bigger presentation. And then last but not least is the Cricut Hopper, and this thing, let me tell you, I've used it before, just on a bigger scale, and I tell you what, is very effective. You can kind of hear it. I think it's got rattles. I don't know if you can hear that, but also with this bail right here is going to get you to a depth of about 4 to 5 feet. And if you slow roll it, you know, you can fish it shallow. It doesn't really matter. It's all based on your preference or where the fish are at. But and go max depth 5 feet, so you can fish it deep if the bass or pike are down low in the water. And basically, it's just gonna swim like that there. Almost. It's also gonna wiggle in the back, have a really tight wobble. It's got rattles in there, so it's really gonna irritate the bass when they're down there. So honestly, really good baits for small panfish. Overall, very quality baits as well. I mean, a lot of these brands here I've used before, and I have really, really great reviews on them and stuff like that. If we're talking setups, probably an ultralight rod, like a trout rod. I mean, unless you're going for pike, then you could get like, you know, more of like a medium heavy spinning rod or a medium rod. Doesn't really matter, based on your preference and I guess what kind of fish you're going after. If you have a specific target species, or if you're just using these just to catch whatever's in the pond, really. So probably use like monofilament or fluorocarbon. I like fluorocarbon because it sinks, and honestly fluorocarbon just has a good stretch on it, so if you're fighting fish, it makes it kind of easier, honestly. And like I said, if you want to get max depth on anything that has a bill on it, or just anything in general, I use fluorocarbon. If you're going after pike and you're like using these right here or whatever, I might suggest either A, use mono or fluorocarbon and maybe attach a steel leader, or you can just use straight braid. It doesn't matter as long as it's like low vis. Honestly, pike will go after anything you throw at them because it's a meal, especially small meals. They'll feed so often because they're big fish. So, but yeah, you'll see us in later videos when it starts to warm up a little bit. Right now it's in the middle of February. There's snow on the ground and lakes are all frozen, but I don't get out much ice fishing. So once it starts warming up in the springtime, we'll start using these baits and we'll get you some videos on those so you can see them in action, see if we can't get any underwater footage, I guess. That's about it, really. Guys, any more questions, want to see some different content, feel free to drop it in the comments. You know, like I said, this is no way in shape or form sponsored by Shop Crawls or anything like that. However, in the next video I am going to be reviewing some Guggen Squad baits that I got in this giant package that I did get from Shop Crawls, but this is not sponsored by them or anything like that. Be really cool if it was at some point. So yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, give us a like button, just a little like button, a little comment, that's fine. You know, it doesn't have to be too fancy, just maybe drop like what's your best fish, or you know, what you would use out of these if you were like in a situation where you could only use one. Like, what would you use? And I think personally, if I was in a situation where I could only pick one of these baits, I'd probably have to go with this feather burst spin right here, because personally I love spinners like these. I mean, they're beautiful, they work well in any situation really. I mean, spinners, anything that has a little shine to it and a little action, is honestly one of the best lures out there in the game. So either that, or I'd probably go with this if I was in a situation as well. You know, it's got a pattern on it, really attract fish from anywhere, but this I could go deeper. So that's about it. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in next time where I review some Guggen baits that I got also from Shop Crawls, which is honestly one of the best websites I've ever been on. You can subscribe to them for like $50 a year or something like that annually, and save so much money on baits and get awesome cool products and stuff like that. And then there's also the subscription for the boxes, where each month, or 3 months or something like that if I remember correctly, where you'll get a box of baits worth up to any amount you pay for practically. You can just go check it out, and they have a bunch of different options for a bunch of different payment methods. It's honestly one of the best websites I've ever been on, and they have so many different fishing products, so many different merch, like shirts, hoodies, hats, stuff like that as well. You can get stickers, you can also get rods and reels and stuff like that. It's honestly one of the greatest websites I've ever went on for fishing in general. So without further ado, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode.